Live from the Score Atlanta television studios in North Atlanta, this is Georgia High School Sports Daily, powered by IBEW Local 613.
All right, welcome back to Georgia High School Sports Daily. I'm Najee Wilkes along with Craig Say. We have a lot in store for you guys today. We're going to talk to Roswell head football coach Jonathan Thompson, just hired from Lee County in their record-setting year. So we're going to get to hear from him what's the latest around that program and what he's going to kind of instill into the offense this upcoming year as well for the Hornets. So that'll be fun. We'll also talk about our basketball rankings. A lot happened around the state as we inch closer to the region championship. So that should be a lot of fun. We'll do a National Signing Day look ahead. Remember that we're going to have our show next Wednesday, 12 to 3 p.m. So if you want to be on here, definitely come holler at scoreatl.com or go to Score or to tweet Score Atlanta as well, so you could do that. And then we'll conclude our segment with Hayden's high school hits, the latest that he's seeing around the state. But Craig, as we start on this fine Tuesday, what's the latest that you're hearing? What you're most excited about as we kind of enter in this really important stretch for basketball?
Yeah, well, we'll break down the rankings. We got the Week 11 up at scoreatl.com. I think just a couple teams that have really piqued my interest on the boys' side. One, you have Tucker. They're playing absolutely phenomenal. We had their coach on the show. He was talking about how young they were, but I mean, if you look at the top 10 in class, 4A right now, you got Tucker. They've beaten Jonesboro. They've beaten St. Pius now. They've beaten, I think, McDonough. They have a lot of top 10 wins this last week. They're really red hot. And then Etowah beating Walton, that was a big result last week. And the way they did it, similar to what we saw against Wheeler, where they had that big comeback in the second half, they erased like a 17-point deficit, I think, and got that win. So Etowah is a team where clearly they have the ability to come back, and that can be very dangerous.
Do you think we're sleeping on them a little bit?
Absolutely. Yeah, because I haven't had them above Walton once this entire season. I mean, there's some other teams that you think you might be sleeping on. Maybe Newton, they have more losses than probably their actual talent reflects just because they played so difficult. But the way Etowah played head-to-head against Wheeler, who right now, look how red hot they are, beating Milton the way they did, I think Etowah's playing very great, and that was a big win over Walton. If they can get that number 2 seed out of that region, get home court, they'll be very dangerous. And clearly, when they can spark a run, I mean, it's pretty overwhelming. They're a team that can go on those 13-0, 17-0 runs at any point in the game, so that's very dangerous.
Now, before we get to our headlines, obviously, you asked me yesterday when I was doing the show where I was at. You talked about the Grayson versus Holly Innocence, obviously, game. I just want to get your quick recap on just what you thought about what Caleb was able to do in that one, and Holly Innocence is going to get one of the powers here in the state. Yeah,
it reminds me of that. I mean, obviously a completely different circumstance, but it almost reminds me of that North Oconee game last year where North Oconee's playing well. They probably have more depth in terms of their 5 guys on the court, but once Holy Innocence was down by 10, it's like, hey, we need to get back in this game. It was the Caleb Wilson show, and that's what he can do. So I think they'll go into a game, they'll try to get everyone involved, but anytime they need that quick burst, they need him to take over, he's ready to do it. And to do it against Grayson the way they did, that's a very strong sign. And I just think they're a bigger favorite this year. There'll be some strong competition with Green Forest. You see Walker's on a hot streak right now. But I think the competition may be tougher, but they've gotten a lot better. And then just one more story yesterday that we broke, the Adam Clack news at Parkview was huge. And I was a little surprised just how big that headline was. We've seen a lot of coaching hires. It almost seemed like that one might be the biggest one yet. Just the fact that he took that hiatus, and people are really starting to look back at what Milton was before he got there. And that's something I didn't really expect it as much.
No, I mean, I 100% agree. I mean, when you look at him and the coach that he is, right, obviously took that time kind of away, to reevaluate and everything, go overseas, get to learn different things like that. I think it's very important to just attest to how great of a coach he is. We got to see him in the 7th grade game when he coached that. It looked really good there. So, I mean, if you're a Parkview fan or you're a parent, you should be super excited because he's one of those coaches that can change around a program. Not saying that Parkview needs that. You know what I'm saying? As far as, like, they've been terrible, but I'm saying, like, you'll be right back there to kind of that pinnacle of what the program's there for.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing to see the storyline yesterday. It's Clack, who built Milton program, takes over Parkview job. It's not Clack who won a state title at Milton. I mean, to credit him with building the success they have right now, obviously Coach Reeves is taking it to a whole nother level. Just absolutely massive. So that was a big news that broke yesterday. But let's get into our headlines real quick. We've got some swimming updates. Walton, kind of a 2-for-1 right here. They swept the team titles at Cobb County. For the boys, it was their 4th straight. And then for the girls, it was their 8th straight. Depth is so important in swimming. We talked about it with North Gwinnett's coach. On the girls' side, they did not win a single individual event, but they had multiple athletes in certain heats, and they were able to finish in the top 3. And then they edged Lassiter, it looks like 1,024 points to 951. And then on the boys' side, this one was very close. 1,022 points to Lassiter's 1,015. Super close. The boys had more finishers. They dominated the 200-yard freestyle and also the 200 individual medley, where they had 3 swimmers finish in that top 10. So Walton sweeps, girls 8th straight, the boys 4 straight Cobb County titles.
100%. All right, guys, let's go to our next headline at number 2. Pace Academy gets a big win against Pebblebrook, 76-59. And this game, y'all, was electric. When you look at Eric Chatfield, the Georgia Tech signing, what he was able to do in this one, he finished with 16 points. But the pace at which he plays and how he can slash to the rim is something very, very, very special. Him, along with the Chandler Bling, who finished with 31 points and 9 rebounds in that contest. Those two, that pairing, it's going to be something special to watch. Tough to really stop as well. They were shooting from all over the place, just in rhythm. The offense flowed even better compared to a week before when Eric Chatfield was out. And you can see the difference on the court for this Pace Academy team. And I'm telling you what, you look at them and you break everything down, they're going to be a team to beat in 4A. The only one I think that can come close is North Oconee. And I want to shout out also Zyree Brown for Pebblebrook. Young guard, but he's very talented. No one's talking about him. We know about the pipeline from Pebblebrook when we look at, obviously, Colin Sexton, obviously him being in the NBA and what he's been able to do. But this could be the next guard. I'm not saying he's going to be on that level, but guard that we're not talking about in the 2026 class that we need to pay more attention to is Zyree Brown. He was really special as well in that game.
Yeah, huge performance, 20 points, and kept them in that game. All right, here's an interesting headline. Headline 3, we're going to talk about Pope's boys basketball team. Their star player, Zach Blesjoy, has had a successful ACL surgery. This happened around Christmas. They were playing Adairsville. He's coming off a screen. He ended up hurting his ACL, went out for a minute, went back in, and then it happened again. And so he was out. He was on such a hot streak. He was averaging 28 points per game. In the 5 games before he got injured, he had 39 points, 35, 29, and 39. And then the other game, he had a triple-double. Since losing Zach, though, they have lost 9 straight. So it's a very tough blow for them, but it just goes to show how talented he was. A lot of people are saying, including their coach, Coach Abney, that this is probably he was having the best season in Pope basketball history. So it's very tough, but right now they think they could have been 19-2 without him. He's not there. They're trying to regroup, but he is committed to Chattanooga. And right now he's trying to fill that role of a kind of a coach on the sideline as they make those adjustments. But if you're looking at Pope's record, wondering what happened, big blow for them to lose Zach.
Yeah, 100%. Obviously, he's a great contributor. He was rated as one of the top point guards entering into the 2024 season. So hopefully he recovers well, but glad he's going off to the University of Tennessee at Chattanooga. All right, our next headline coming up, we have Northside Warner Robins offensive lineman Chasten Brown commits to Florida State. So for those that don't know, he was previously committed to UCF. In addition, Gus Malzahn ended up leaving to Florida State. So actually, that's really interesting. So must have recruited him to come over there and ask him, hey, come be my offensive lineman here, even though I'm no longer at UCF. I want you to come play for me. So that's interesting to see enough. He had offers from Georgia Tech, Florida, and several others before making this decision. Here is his quote. He says, me and Coach Malzahn have a really great bond. Brown said shortly after the former UCF coach moved to Florida State. You can go and ask him that yourself. Me and Coach Malzahn, we connect just like that. Ever since they wanted me, Coach Malzahn and I had a really great bond. That bridge can never be burned. So something that was very important in him going to Florida State. Coach Malzahn really likes that relationship with him.
Yeah, big news. They've had a lot of talent come from Georgia. And it's interesting to see I mean, obviously the big flip with Chroma, and now you got offensive linemen paving the way for him. So
yeah, 100%. And from Lee County. I mean, not Lee. I'm sorry, Northside Warner Robins, around that middle Georgia area. So
yeah, he was one of the best offensive linemen in the state. Now you got one of the best running backs in the country. All right, headline 5: 2 Georgia players make the McDonald's All-American game. We talked about the nominees. It's going to be Holy Innocents guard Haley Swain. Swain's a 5-star prospect committed to Stanford. She crossed the 2,000-point mark for her career earlier this month. She is selected to play in the Nike Hoop Summit. And then, no surprise here, Caleb Wilson from Holy Innocents, the 5-star prospect committed to UNC this last week. He dropped 30 points and 15 rebounds in that 2-point loss to Grayson on Saturday.
100%, guys. And obviously, a more story, I know some people may know, but if you were in the basketball realm, his mom actually tweeted out he's been getting threats since he's committed to North Carolina. So, man, I just wish him the best here. For fans, there's no need for that in the game. It's never that serious. You know what I'm saying? It's a college decision. Like, let's relax. You know what I'm saying? So hopefully he doesn't get any more. He's obviously a phenomenal player. But I did want to bring it up, too, on the show today. I think that is egregious and ridiculous.
Yeah, that's rough. I did not know that.
Yes.
Hopefully it's not from Kentucky fans. Or,
yeah, it is.
Oh, it is.
Yeah,
all right.
from Kentucky fans. But it's never that serious.
That's something we see, though. It's very tough when you've got your final two. The fan bases, obviously, a player like that, they want him to go. But, yeah, no excuse to he had to pick someone. He had to upset one fan base. But if you're a fan of basketball, it should not impact you like that.
100%. All right, guys, coming up right here after the break, we're going to talk to Roswell head coach Jonathan Thompson and get the latest about the Hornets and what he plans to implement in the offseason in this coming year for Roswell.
Great teams are committed, focused on the details, and work hard to be their best. From practice to games, right down to their gear. Your field is a critical part of the game that allows your athletes to showcase their athletic abilities. Sports Turf is committed to bringing your team innovative sports surfaces with unparalleled performance. You bring the vision. Our team brings it to life.
This makes my dad proud. He went through his whole career as an employee. Now I'm the employer, something he didn't achieve.
We are signatory to IBEW and do IBEW people wherever we go that we feel like they are faster and better than any of our competition.
The advantages of being a signatory contractor is you're trained employees. You have unlimited manpower. It allows me to bid on jobs that I ordinarily would not go after.
We celebrate the athletes, the buzzer beaters, the record breakers, the wins. Now, it's time to celebrate the people behind it all. The advice givers, the community shapers, the game changers, the life changers. It's time to celebrate our coaches. Join all of us at BSN Sports and show your coach some love by sharing their story with #ThankYouCoach.
Man, you know how to do this? Man, I don't even know. I was flipping burgers last week.
Violation, unsportsmanlike conduct, impersonating a craftsman.
Skilled trade unions are well-trained career pros, not part-timers. Construction is a rewarding and lucrative career with the advancement potential, but you have to do it the right way with the right training. Learn how you can be a pro. Find your career at GeorgiaConstructionCareers.com.
Georgia High School Sports Daily is brought to you by the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local 613. Electrify your career.
All right, welcome back to Georgia High School Sports Daily. Remember that you can watch the show on the Atlanta News First app, CBS Sports local streaming app, Zeem, and also on Peachtree Sports Network via YouTube TV. Remember that the show is powered by IBW Local 613. All right, Craig, we're going to bring the head coach in here in just a moment. Head coach for the Roswell Hornets, Coach Thompson. Hey, how you doing today?
How's it going, guys? Appreciate everything you do for Georgia High School sports. Obviously, you know, promoting the players and the coaches and these programs, man. It's awesome what you guys do.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, Coach. We really appreciate having you on. And I want to start just real quick. I know you've turned the chapters at Roswell, but you had such a great season this past year with Lee County, and everyone just wants to start with Usman Chroma. We know he's great, Mr. Georgia winner this past year for the first annual, but this offense was humming, not just him, your quarterback, Weston Bryant, your receivers, everything just seemed to fit so great. So how were you able to accomplish that at such an elite level this year?
Yeah, I think it starts with just the setup and the support here at Lee County. You know, Coach Fabrizio has built a phenomenal program. The administration is phenomenal, and they've given us the tools to be successful from a coaching perspective. Athletically, man, we couldn't have been blessed with a better group. That they had been in the program for a while. You know, schematically, they knew what was expected. Expectation-wise, every day they knew what was expected, and they were just a bunch of great dudes. You know, you talk about it all the time. It sounds cliche, but when you're best players are your best people, you're going to be special. And I think, you know, these guys were talented. Obviously, Usmani is a once-in-a-lifetime generational talent. You know, we had our banquet last night, and Coach reels off these stats, and you're just like, wow, right? And then you think about Weston and what he did this year and had almost 30 touchdowns rushing and passing, right? So I think that, you know, just they were special individuals that committed and bought into everything that we were believing. We had a great support here. And, you know, there's an expectation at Lee County that to win football games, and I thought those guys did a great job doing that. And obviously we had a lot of success offensively, and we were able to do it in multiple ways. You know, I think a lot of people talk about Usmani and Weston, and they were obviously phenomenal, but obviously our offensive line was special to be able to run the football the way we did, and then to be able to throw for almost 2,400 yards, right, and have a sophomore receiver that absolutely had a phenomenal season as well, and Jaden Upshaw, and then senior receivers like Jordan Houston, who went out and had almost 500 yards, and then Usmani out of the backfield. You know, the past 2 years he's had over 600 yards receiving. So I think it was just a special group that had a bunch of special young men that really cared about each other and bought into what we were doing, and they were just good people. And again, when you have, you know, kids like that are just truly genuine good people, it's infectious.
100%, sir. And then I want to ask you just a little bit about the process, right? We see this job opened up after head coach for Roswell, Chris Pruitt, went to Dalton. So for you, what was your process like kind of this offseason as far as jobs and things like that in the hiring process for you?
Well, I'll be honest with you. You know, for me and my family, I've got my wife, Shalia Thompson. She's also a teacher here at Lee County High School. I got a 4-year-old little girl, right? So Lee County is a special place for us. We love it. There's not any drawbacks here. We have just great community, great school system. So for us, you know, being and moving to different places was not something that we typically, you know, wanted to do in January. But I knew at some point I did want to be a head coach, but I knew I wanted to do it at a place that could compete at the highest level, that was a community and family feel atmosphere. And I thought that it was somewhere I could raise my daughter and we could carry out our, you know, our family in that community. And again, we wanted to do it at the highest level, you know, and I felt like when Roswell came open, it's the only head job that I've ever applied for. And I knew that it was a special place just from, you know, they've won 98 games in the last 10 seasons, right? So the expectations are high. You know, they've obviously got a great support system there in the community and administration-wise, and they've got really good players. And from the moment I went and interviewed, I knew I needed my wife to see what I saw, that if we were fortunate enough to get offered the job, that I thought it was a place I could see us, you know, raising a family and building a program there. Not building, but elevating, because obviously the program's built. They've been highly successful. So again, if we were going to move from a place like Lee County, as special as it is, it was going to take something special, and I think Roswell's that in all factors.
Now, before I throw Craig in here, I want to ask you one more question, Coach. I want you to talk about your previous experiences at Harris County and obviously Upson Lee, and then obviously you talked about Lee County. How do you feel like that's helped prepare you to be a head coach, as you said, for such a great program?
Yeah, I've worked for 3 phenomenal head coaches throughout the course of my career. The guy that I played for, Tommy Parks, he was a longtime head coach in Middle and West Georgia at Harris County and Upson Lee. And I worked with him both at Harris and at Upson Lee. And he's really was my mentor, right? And he means a lot to me and has really impacted me in so many ways. And he unfortunately had a heart attack and passed away early in my career. And I stayed on and worked for a guy named Justin Elder, who's just another top-notch individual. And when I got the opportunity to go to Lee County and work for Dean Fabrizio, that was obviously special in itself. And I think all of those men have things that they are phenomenal at. And my goal is to take the things that they, you know, excel at and make it a part of who I am as a head coach, right? Because it's obviously different, you know, moving from the offensive coordinator role to the head coach. But I think I've done a lot of homework. I've worked with a lot of great people and a lot of great programs, and I've seen it done the right way. And I've taken my time to learn all aspects of it. And I think the experiences that I had at all 3 spots really will help me in this next journey.
Yeah, in all 3 of those spots, Upson Lee, Lee County, and then Harris County, just so many great athletes at all 3 of those places. You've got the Roswell job now, great athletes there too, great community, long history. When is your meet and greet? Have you guys had that yet, or is that coming up this week?
Yeah, it's actually going to be, I believe it's on Tuesday, February let me double check, but I'm pretty positive, February 4th. Yeah, so Tuesday, February 4th, me and my family are going to go up and 7 o'clock and get to meet everybody and, embrace the community and show them who we are and that, we're excited to hit the ground running. So, yeah, that's when that's going to be, and we're excited about it.
And then in terms of the offensive coordinator duties, obviously you've been doing that, I believe, since 2012. At Roswell, you're head coach now. What's your plan or vision on how you're going to handle the offense or delegating those roles?
Yeah, so that's a question that came up, probably the second time that we talked to the administration at Roswell. But I think that it's a passion of mine. I love being a play caller. I love formatting game plans on Sunday. I feel like it's something that I excel in. And obviously, we've been able to score a lot of points at Lee because we've got phenomenal players. But I also think that we've done a good job of putting them in position to be successful and, changing to the different athletes that you have every year, right? So for me, I'm excited about continuing to call the plays. That's something that I feel passionate about. I feel that, again, it's part of, one of the reasons that's gotten me to where I am today. And right now I want to continue to do that, and to do that at a place like Roswell that has obviously a ton of athletes. That's exciting, right? And you look at some of the guys that are going to be coming back next year. I'm excited to call plays with those dudes that are pulling the trigger and on the O-line and run the ball and out wide, right? So offensively, I'm going to continue to call it, and I'm super excited about that.
Yeah, we have a graphic we're going to show of the highest scoring offenses in Georgia history. You guys obviously were outstanding this year. Very fun to watch, but I think what you probably have to be most proud about is just the overall effort that Lee County played with this last season offensively on that side of the ball, just every single game, and being able to put up these numbers in the region and against the competition you guys played this year. That's what's most incredible to me, is just how tough the competition was, and you guys still were able to have that success.
Yeah, no doubt. The region that we played, Coach talked about it last night. When you saw it before it came out and was public last year, we were like, wow, we got to go to Colquitt, right? We got to play 2 defending state champions in TCC and Coffee back to back, right? And that doesn't include the rest of the region with Hocos of the world, right? And just and Warner Robins, right? The list goes on. I mean, the challenges were there, and it was just a special group that, again, just they loved each other and they were special people. And, it started with the quarterback who, him and Usmani, they Weston and Us, they really carried everybody and showed what the expectation was every day. And they both elevated their game as seniors, and they were just such selfless people that it was infectious. There's not many times you get a running back like Usmani who's willing to lead up for a guy like 9 on, quarterback stretch, or that's willing to, pass pro on A-gap at such a high level, So it's just a combination of a lot of things like we talked about earlier. But I did think that, every day that those guys came ready to work, and it was a special group, and it was special times that we'll never forget.
And then final question before we let you go, Coach. I just want to ask you just a little bit about this kind of acclimation period for you. Like, what's next, and what are your plans for spring? Will you try to have a spring game, or will you do practice? Talk us just a little bit about that.
Yeah, so right now we're kind of in the transition period. I'm obviously doing a lot of things that the head coach would do from afar. My official start date up there hadn't been set in stone yet, and we're kind of working through those. Obviously, we're going to try to get there as soon as we can and hit the ground running. My expectation is to obviously have spring football, and we're going to do a spring game, probably an inter-squad sort of situation is what we've done. That's what we've done here at Lee. I think it just allows you to evaluate everybody and get guys in different spots, and everybody leaves spring with a good taste, and you're able to have a really good, solid evaluation. And I've done it both ways, where you play an opponent, and I think there's pros to that, right? And then I think there's pros to having an inter-squad type deal or a mock scrimmage as your culmination of spring. But that's my plan, is to have an inter-squad or mock scrimmage type deal at the end of it, and then get rolling into summer. Obviously, depending on the start date, it'll decide when we get to start installs, the exact dates on that, and middle school spring, and ninth grade spring, I'm sorry, and how we structure that. But as far as spring goes, that's the plan.
100%. Well, Coach Thompson, thank you so much for coming on, talking about the Roswell Hornets. Can't wait to see you up there at the Hornets Nets.
Can't wait to be there. Go Hornets.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, guys.
Yes, sir. Go Hornets. And that's Coach Thompson. Coming up, we will talk about the latest with the basketball Breakers right after the break.
Georgia High School Sports Daily is presented by GeorgiaConstructionCareers.com. Transform your future today. And by Smart Local 85. Sheet metal is a smart move.
All right, welcome back to Georgia High School Sports Daily. Nigel Wilkes along with Craig Sager. So now it's time to get into some hoops and talk the latest with the basketball rankings. I'm super excited to get this started. So we'll go ahead and pull it up and talk about 6A with our rankings. Obviously at the top is Grayson, but a team I want to highlight is Wheeler, a very special team. At the top, had a really good win, 82-52. We talked about it yesterday, Craig, but I mean, just versatile scoring. Coben Landry, I think, is one of the best prospects in the state, regardless of class. I mean, he's electric. Got a chance to see him in person. Coda Settle, best two-way player. I mean, I think regardless of position, can guard anybody. And then you look at Monsieur McLean, a guy that can stretch the defense with his three-point shot. And then the team I want to really ask you about is McEachern. I feel like with Jaden Bynes, Chase Lumpkin, all those guys, they really got some really special players as well. And I feel like that top three, whoever gets hot, got a good chance to win.
Yeah, so I mean, Grayson's been number one the whole season. They're the defending champs. They had that nice win over Holy Innocents. But if you look at this last week, Wheeler going up against number one Milton. That's a game I did not expect it to impact the rankings. I felt like, okay, one of these teams has to lose. The way Wheeler won, though, it shows defensively. That's another aspect of this team. They have so many different guys. It's so hard to stop offensively, but then they have that defensive effort. Being able to beat them 52 by 30 points, just massive. That was enough to drop Milton to number 2 this week. And then McEachern, same deal. They went up against Hillgrove, top 10 matchup, absolutely dominated. So McEachern, they're red hot right now. Wheeler, I feel like they're probably the hottest team in 6A overall, slightly above them. But they certainly had a tremendous week, and they fortified that top 3 for me. I feel like it is wide open at this point. Grayson still hasn't lost within the state. They have those 2 out-of-state losses, but the way Wheeler's playing, very dangerous, and you got to like the way they handled business on both sides of the court. Holding Milton just 52 points.
100%. And Buford picked up a win over Calvary Day, 76-72. And another big thing, guys, I want to talk about is 6A beating 5A. So speaking of that, let's go to 5A. Another big win. Newton actually beat Tri-Cities this past week, 76-72, Craig. A big win for them. Woodward Academy continues to be a top team. They picked up wins over Shiloh and Lakeside DeKalb.
Yeah, I mean, Newton's going to be battle-tested. We talked about how their talent, I think they have 7 losses this season. No, they're 15-6. So they haven't played as many games, but that was probably their biggest win so far against Tri-Cities. They're going to play Grayson coming up soon. Another team real quick in 6A, you got Lambert, 20-2 team, and then Westlake debuted this week. They had a great win, or a great week, 2 top 10 wins over Spencer and Chapel Hill. In 5A, Woodward Academy took advantage of Milton losing that game. They beat Shiloh 59-44, Lakeside DeKalb this last week. Winterboro, they've been red hot. They actually had a couple close games last week, so I feel like they need to hit that next step. And then Houston County is the new team. You see them slightly above Lee County. They will play again, I believe, tonight. Houston County won 50-48 the last time they played, and they are 7-0 in that region too. So they have a chance to get that top seed heading into the region tournament. That is why they debuted this week. 7-0 in their region.
All right, let's go to Class 4A now. At the top, we already talked about it, so I won't say too much more, but Pace Academy beat Pebblebrook, a really impressive win there. Norfolk County, they beat Rome 64-30 and picked up a win last night against Cedar Shoals, another dominant win for them. And then Central Carrollton, they played up against Jonesboro and Tucker, had a really good week as well.
Yeah, and it's a really solid top 10. St. Pius has gone down about 4 spots in the last 2 weeks. The Tucker win was a huge reason for that. Tucker's gone from number 9 up to number 7. They have beaten Jonesboro, but I feel like those teams are very even. Central Carroll's jumped up to number 5, and then Maynard Jackson, the fact that they are still at number 10, such a talented team. I think 4A has gotten a lot more depth in the last few weeks, but Pace Academy certainly has rebounded well. And I think Eric Chatfield missing that game last week honestly helped them, because Chandler Bingham, it's Bingham, right?
Bing.
Yes, sir. Chandler Bing, him stepping up and being able to have that lead role. You saw it in the last game. He put up 31 points, Chatfield 25. feel like that helped them, and Coach White, you saw after that game, said his team is locked in right now.
Yes, they are. And don't sleep on, obviously, Kale in 4A as well. All right, let's go to 3A. At the top, obviously, Cedar Grove, Cross Creek, number 2. I just want to talk about them. They completed a season sweep of Westside Augusta this past week, defeating them 67-59. A really good team and powerhouse also in Georgia.
Yeah, Westside Augusta, they're going to be the defending champs. They've gotten it done in 2 ways, so it's a little different this year. Cross Creek did sweep that season series. They might meet again in the region tournament. We will see about that, though. Then you see Douglas holding on at number 7, and then Sandy Creek has moved up to number 4 this week. Cherokee Bluffs also having a tremendous season out of Hall County at number 5. I feel like they always make a run in every sport.
100%. All right, let's go to 2A now. Our rankings there. At the top, Carver Columbus continue to have a great year. Columbia, they went 2-1 this past week. Really impressive week for them. And Kip Atlanta, they lost to Holly Innocence in a Holly Innocence MLK Classic in that when they were down by 30 points heading to 4th before being able to cut it down some. But Quadarius Clemens led them in that loss.
Yeah, Carver Columbus trying to be that team, one of those rare teams to win football and basketball. It's very hard to do, but they've held on to number 1 all season long. Kip Atlanta, despite that loss, I feel like they're an emerging program on the scene that people haven't been talking about a lot. Morgan County has the pedigree also. Spencer fell to number 10. They had a couple losses, but up in the classification. And then Laney moved up from number 7 to number 5 this week. Yet another solid team out of that Augusta area.
100%. All right, let's go to Class A Division 1 now. At the top, Putnam County suffered their first loss, last week or a few weeks ago. But continue to look good, continue to keep that main spot. Temple, they ended up beating Darlington 48-40.
Yep, Temple's a team, they moved up from number 4 to number 3 this week. Some other polls have them all the way at number 2. I still really like Southwest Macon, the runs they've had over the last few years. Still have them slightly above Temple at number 2. And then Rabun County moved up to number 5 this week. And then you still have Towers holding on. I think there was a situation with Towers, an injury to one of their players this week. I tried to look it up. I couldn't find it, but hopefully that situation is okay. And then Dublin also moved up 1 spot to number 7 this week.
All right, let's go to Class A Division 2. At the top, McIntosh County Academy, they picked up a win over Jenkins County, 50-38.
Yep, so McIntosh County Academy had that 1-point win over number 2 Savannah about 2 weeks ago. They're going to play again. That'll be a big-time matchup to watch. And then you see Randolph Clay, number 3. They had a big win over number 4 Calhoun County to swap places with them this week. And then Tryon, a team that debuted in the poll 2 weeks ago. They have definitely fortified their spot in the rankings, having a solid run these last few weeks and holding on to that spot.
All right, last but not least, obviously Class A to 3A private. At the top, I'll let you lead this one, Craig. I just want to bring up Walker, as you mentioned earlier, one of the hottest teams in this classification, 3 ranked wins they picked up last week.
Yeah, so we've seen at the number 4 spot, Calvary Day's been up there. We've seen Mount Bethel's been up there. But this week, getting those 3 top 10 wins was huge for Walker. They've climbed all the way up to number 5 in our poll. And then you see GAC moving up to number 4. I don't know as much about GAC as I do Walker, but I feel like they've had a really solid run, and they're going to benefit from being in this Class A to 3A private classification. But I still think Holy Innocents, the way they're playing, team to beat. But we got to also look at North Cobb Christian at number 2.
100%. All right, guys, coming up right after the break, we will have Hayden on to talk about preview of National Signing Day right here on the Peachtree Sports Network.
We celebrate the athletes, the buzzer beaters, the record breakers, the wins. Now, it's time to celebrate the people behind it all, the advice givers, the community shapers, the game changers, the life changers. It's time to celebrate our coaches. Join all of us at BSN Sports and show your coach some love by sharing their story with #ThankYouCoach.
Dang, where you get this car?
You need to join the union.
The union?
Absolutely. You can get 10 of these.
Union construction workers earn the highest wages with the best benefits and the most protection in the construction industry. Find your career in construction. Go to GeorgiaConstructionCareers.com and start your future today.
A journeyman with Local 85
when you turn out, you can be hitting 6 figures.
Hey, I have your back, you have my back. We're going to do this together. We're one for all for one.
College just wasn't for me. Let's look into actual career jobs that wouldn't take college, where I wouldn't, lose money and all that. Instead of losing a lot more money at the end, why not make money and make more money at the end?
What happens after you graduate? Will you go to the next level? Will people have your back in the heat of the battle? Will you still train like a champion in pursuit of greatness? You will when you become an IBEW electrician. Join our team. Visit IBEW613.org.
All right, welcome back to Georgia High School Sports Daily. Najee Wilkins along with Craig Sager and Hayden Gilbert as he joins us for segment 4 and 5 for today's show. So, Hayden, I want to get your thoughts. Obviously, some major recruitments that we're seeing, guys committing, decommitting. So let's talk about the 3. Nico Maggio obviously decommits for Wake Forest, goes to North Carolina. You obviously got Tommy Lafayette, formerly of Stanford, going to UPenn, and then also got Chasten Brown, formerly of UCF, joining his coach, who says very important, Florida State. What is your thoughts on those moves?
I mean, the Chasten Brown one, I felt like that was I felt like that's what we were expecting. He was really high on them. Like, you really look at that recruitment. It was UCF. It kind of felt like he wanted to go down that way. And then Gus Malzahn leaves UCF and goes over to FSU, and it just felt like a natural fit over there. Then you have Nico Maggio. Wake Forest loses their head coach. He retires. He moves into a different role with the program, and then Bill Belichick comes over to UNC, and that's a big deal. I mean, that's a big name. Whether he's going to be a good college coach or not doesn't really matter. That's a name that people know. It's a name that's going to draw a lot of kids, especially these second-tier recruits that are still great players, but aren't the guys that everyone wants and that have more flexibility in some of where they can and can't go.
100%. And then what's your thoughts real quick on just Tommy?
I think that's interesting. We now have two guys that are pretty big names going there. Mill Creek's quarterback, Martin, decided to go there over some FBS offers, and now you have a guy that had all kinds of offers from Stanford, a really smart kid, everything, really good running back. I mean, was one of the main engines in that offense for a team that went undefeated in the regular season, made a deep playoff run. So I think that's a great get for them. It's also interesting because Ivy League schools don't have scholarships. Now, he probably does have a scholarship because he's brilliant, like most of the kids that go up there are.
That's true.
Yeah, I want to ask both you guys a question real quick. So we mentioned Tommy Lafayette, great running back we've seen play in person a bunch. Transferred to North Gwinnett, had a great season. Another guy, though, shout out to Recruit Georgia, that they pointed out hasn't made a decision yet, Oris Foster from West Forsyth. And if you look at the playoffs last year in Class 6A, he was the reason. I mean, they almost beat Douglas County in that semifinal game. West Forsyth had a great offensive plan in that game. I mean, they came really close, got into the red zone, couldn't convert on 4th down, but I think he went for 123 yards. That would have been the quarterfinals, had multiple touchdowns in that game, and then we saw how well Douglas County played Grayson. Do you think Oris Foster is a guy that might be on the radar to make a splash in these coming days?
I think he's definitely going to be one of those guys that you're going to see. He's going to commit in the coming weeks because this isn't the end. Like, lots of these kids are still going to be committing to, and they're going to be you're going to see, especially these programs that lose out on some of these guys late, they're going to be trying to get these guys that are depth pieces, that are developmental pieces moving forward. And I think especially have a program like West Forsyth that we've really seen develop a lot of these good running backs. I think he can really be one of these guys that gets an FCS offer or preferred walk-on to a major university.
Another quick example to your point, Hayden, is Peyton Strako ended up going, I believe it was to Clemson, underrated guy, but ended up finally being able to get on there. To your point, Craig, about Oris, I think he is a guy that's underrated. I also want to give a shout out to one of our main guys, Rusty Manziel, who's always on the show, does obviously our color commentary, but he did a post with coaches still looking for college prospects. So you guys see that. Definitely drop your film down below. Just a little news bite for you as well. But I think Foster Oris and what he's able to bring is he's a guy that has big playability, right? He's underrated. Every time he's been featured in a big game, to your point, Craig, with Douglas County, right? Let's go back to a few years ago when he was featured in the Corky Kell Dave Hunter Classic, right? He ended up winning player of the game offensively for what he was able to do. So this is a guy that whenever the stage is set bright and is big, he always performs at a high level. So he just needs a team to believe in him. I think he could be a guy that eventually lands on his feet and could be a major prospect on the next level.
Yeah, I mean, he had a great game in that. Another guy, Nick Mathis from Hillgrove, defensive lineman, he's picked up some offers, but usually when we see a player kind of heat up late in this seam with like after the end of his season, he's starting to get the offers. We see him in Georgia League Classic. Usually we get surprised by that final offer where I feel like a guy like that, what he was able to do at Hillgrove, such a great season they had, one of the best in probably the last decade. He was a huge reason. I expect him to maybe surprise us with some of the offers he has late.
100% agree. Hayden, I want to ask you, what's a player you think that could potentially be a guy, maybe underrated, but potentially picks up an offer, or even just a guy that we should maybe know about that could be big on the next level?
Well, I think Taz Smith out of Gainesville is, I mean, I know you're really high on him.
Yeah.
I believe he's still uncommitted. Doesn't really have the offers right now, but I still feel like that's a guy that all the talent's there. I think he's a bit undersized. He's more of a slot receiver guy, and a lot of these coaches want these more traditional X wide receivers, or at least be closer to 6 foot tall. But he's so dynamic. We saw it in every game that we had him on this year. He's just a game changer.
No, I 100% agree. We've seen it in the returning game. We've seen him in, like you said, in those big games that Gaines was obviously featured on TV. Continues to come up with big plays down the field, 20-plus yard receptions and things like that. So that's obviously a good pick from you, Hayden. I want to ask you about a player, both of you guys. I'll start with you, Craig. Tell me about Zion Cooley. What do you think about him? Underrated guy, but they made the run all the way to the state championship. Obviously, Caden Spratlin's a name that's starting to kind of get a lot more notice here in the state of Georgia, right? Picking up a tech offer and many more coming in for him. What's your thoughts on Cooley?
Zion, I mean, very impressive. Looks college ready to me every time we saw him. I think, he's definitely another guy.
I think he was the best player in that front seven for a team that made a run at the state championship. Played really well in every game that he played in. I mean, he's just really talented. I think he has the size. I don't really understand why he's not getting more looks and better looks.
I agree, Hayden. And then obviously another underrated one out in Savannah, Calvary Day, Edward Coleman, going along with obviously Thomas Blackshear, another underrated player, 11 touchdowns this past year. Why do you think his recruitment maybe not where it's supposed to be? And obviously rated as a 3-star as well.
I think he's waited. He's done what a lot of these guys do, and he's waited too long, and he wasn't sure about where he wanted to go, and there might be some small things that some of these schools were looking at. They're like, he's more of a depth piece for us, so we're gonna wait a little while longer. And just a lot of these recruiting classes have closed up. Sort of like what was the Grayson wide receiver last year that ended up at West Georgia?
Alex Sanchez.
No, that was Collins Hill. What's his name? The first 1,000-yard receiver.
I don't remember that one.
What's his name?
But it's just one of these things of where he very well may sign tomorrow with a smaller FCS school like West Georgia, or go down to D2 for a year, and then in a year or two we're going to look back and see that he's at FBS or he's at FCS and having just an amazing season.
Back to your point, I just remembered John Senius.
Yes,
that's the name. John Senius. I couldn't remember. I was thinking Sanchez is this year. Yep, John Senius, who's at West Georgia. Great point, obviously by you two, Hayden as well. But obviously, guys, we're going to have our signing day here. Remember, it will be obviously February 5th right here on the Peachtree Sports Network, so it's going to be a lot of fun. So we're just previewing some of the names. Who are some other names, guys, that maybe we should try to have on for the show?
Yeah, well, Weston Taylor, a guy that's Cambridge's quarterback this year, put up huge numbers. I think was number 4 in the state overall. But he was that guy that adapted a new offense this last year, put up great film, made a big run, obviously led them to a victory in multiple games down the stretch, but the Cedartown one was a huge one. I feel like he's a guy where Coach Jones believes in him. A lot of the coaches that played against him have said great things about his abilities. I feel like quarterback's very tough to land a spot. You got to wait. Do you want to sit behind maybe 2 guys? Where do you want to go? Do you want to try to play early? Do you want to enter a quarterback competition? But I feel like he's a guy that everyone's waiting to see what's going to happen with him.
I mean, as of right now, I went and looked at, according to 247, we have nine three-star better guys that are still on the board. I think one of the ones that's interesting to me is Devin Smoot out of Perry. He's still on the board. He has a bunch of offers, but I think it's another one of those things that just waited a little too long. A lot of these things started to dry up as just teams had to make decisions, but he's still a really high-end. I think they have him listed as a safety, just a really high-end 6'1" safety that I think's going to make a recruiter very happy when he finally commits.
Yeah, 100% agree. Mine, real quick, as we kind of wrap up here, obviously Stockbridge offensive lineman Xavier Spikes is another one. Outstanding big man, obviously for Stockbridge. Moves really well for his feet, punisher in the passing game. And obviously Mason McKnight, formerly committed to Georgia Southern. What will his decision be? Played for Northgate this year. Where will he finally land? We'll find out here shortly. So, guys, going to conclude this segment. All the time that we have for right now. Coming up, we'll have Hayden's High School Hits right here on the Peachtree Sports Network. All right, welcome back to Georgia High School Sports Daily. So now we're going to get into Hayden's High School Hits and talk about the latest that he is working on. So I want to start with basketball. Obviously, we're in winter, so we've been talking a lot about hoops and everything like that. But you did a really good article on KIPP Atlanta. Tell us more. Why did you decide to feature them, and what did you kind of have featured there?
Well, the biggest thing for KIPP is KIPP's in there is a very new school. I think they're just about a decade old at this point. And, you know, it's really hard to build a program, especially for a school like KIPP that's a charter school. It's not a private school, but it's also not a traditional public school. So it's why they've struggled in so many sports. But this year they've made the playoffs 2 or 3 times before, and now they're going into this season. You know, they had a rough season last year. I think they won 7 games. So they didn't have these high expectations, and they go into this season, and now they're a top 3 team. I think y'all have them ranked as the number 3 team in 2A. One of their problems is they play in the same region as Holy Innocents, which, you know, is tough when you're playing against the top player in the state. But you really look at that team, they lost by 1 point to Holy Innocents. 2 other of their losses were only by 1 point. And they've just really grown as a program. And as of right now, if I think they'll be favored to win out, which will set the school's all-time wins record. Then they're going to play in the region tournament, which will give them a chance for even more wins. And then they have a chance in the playoffs to win their first ever playoff game and make a deep run.
Yeah, you're 100% right. And that's why it's going to be so important with the PSR, the postseason ratings. If they can get on the opposite side of Holy Innocents, that will be absolutely huge for them. But you broke down their roster, and I mean, they've got a 6'10" big guy, Shane Bynum. They've got a great backcourt. So obviously the story was they're a team looking for the first playoff win, but looking into their roster, kind of their starters, have you seen this is a team that has a lot of talent to make that run?
Well, you look at you're at a small 2A school, so size is always really important. And Shane Bynum isn't just big by high school standards; he's big by college standards. Like he's 6'10", He's not just this 6'10" big guy that's going to go and get buckets around the paint. He can also shoot the ball. According to their max prep stats, he's shooting right at 40% from 3, along with over 50% from the field.
Yeah, you know who's also 6'10"? Caleb Wilson.
That's facts.
Yeah,
true.
It's a great matchup right there.
One more quick thought on Kip. Do you think this is a team maybe in like a year or 2, maybe even 3, that could be one of those challenges when you look and say, hey, they could potentially win it all?
I think if they can continue to build on what they have built this year and continue to just build so much about basketball is building a great culture around the program and around the lower levels of your program, the middle school, the development, the minor leagues of your high school program. If they can continue to do that and they continue to build a winning culture, they definitely can, because that's the most important part of being a good high school basketball program.
Just to negate the confusion, they will be in a separate classification as Holy Innocents. They're in the same region, but they will be in separate playoff brackets. They won't have to worry about that.
Well, there you go. Well, I would obviously ask you too, Hayden, what are some other things you're working on? What are some storylines you're seeing that you could potentially write on?
So every Thursday I write a soccer recruiting blog. And so I'll be doing the girls' soccer rankings as soon as the season starts. I'm already working on that. It's to someone that really didn't pay that much attention to soccer before this year, and now having to look back at last year. It's been a lot of fun.
100%. Who are maybe some top teams we should watch for this year?
So, you always have some of your top teams. North Oconee, as it appears in everything right now, is one of your top programs. Marist is always really good. They've been really good for decades at this point. Lots of your private schools. It's going to make 1 to 3A private a lot of fun, because lots of those programs are really good traditional soccer programs, especially on the girls' side. Then as you get up, Pope, I think, is going to be really good. Laster's going to be really good. And now they're out. I think both those teams lost to Marist last year in the playoffs, where they were probably state title contenders and probably could have made a much deeper run. But now they don't have to deal with Marist, because Marist is now down at 4A, which we could also see a Marist North Oconee state championship or late playoff run, just like we did in the football state championships.
That would be
Westminster will be in 4A also. They're always a tough team for
always
sure.
Good.
And then, so we mentioned you're also going to be doing the gymnastics, but anything else in class 2A that you've discovered just in these blogs?
I think one thing is how wide open it is. Like all the small classifications, so many of teams like Holy Innocents are no longer going to be having to compete in those. They're going to be in their own classification. So it opens it up for a lot of these small schools where previously I wrote on my 2A blog last week on the baseball side, where it was where Appling County's going to have a chance because they no longer are being beat by North Cobb Christian or these other private schools.
100%. And then I think, too, you mentioned that you got a dive also coming out. So what's your dive going to be on?
So I covered bass fishing for us. One of the more interesting sports in that it's not a traditional sport. It's not a traditional stick-a-ball sport. And it's something I've grown up with in bass fishing. It's something that my dad did that I've done. The interesting thing is Kevin Gideon's passed away a year ago in June. He basically, this was his baby. This is what he did. This is what he loved. And now Executive Director Robin Hines has taken over. I think he's going to do a great job. But the first tournament was supposed to be on Saturday, and it got canceled because of the snow. So it's caused a little bit of chaos, and it caused a little bit of questions for what's going to happen moving forward this season.
Last question before we wrap up. Can you tell those of the audience at home, like for you, I know obviously you have a passion for it. What makes bass fishing such a great sport?
It's just it's not a competition between people. It's a competition between you and the fish, and really the most important thing is confidence in yourself and what you're doing. It's sometimes stupid confidence of, I'm going to sit here all day and do this, and if I do it, I'm either going to win or I'm going to lose, but I'm going to do this.
What's the biggest bass you've ever caught?
I've got up to 5 or 6 pounds. I've never caught a giant, but I mean, I've seen my dad, people that I've grown up with, caught 8, 9, 10-pound bass.
Yeah, that would be up there. I know you wish that they had that sport when you were in high school.
Yeah, maybe a little bit.
Maybe a little bit. All right, guys, don't forget, visit scoreatl.com for the latest breaking news, updates, classification blogs, and more. There's the QR code, so make sure you go ahead and scan that and subscribe. And make sure you go to the scoreatl.com site for the latest breaking news. All right, guys, that's going to conclude today's show. We'll see you the same time, right here, same place, Wednesday, 12 to 1 p.m., right here on the Peachtree Sports Network.
Hey, is the power off on this?
I don't know. Just take it off. Safety violation, unsafe work conditions.
In the construction trades unions, safety is our highest priority, and we train you to recognize and speak out on unsafe working conditions so that everyone arrives and goes home safely. Learn about careers in construction at georgiaconstructioncareers.com.
Beginning the morning you opened your eyes, we spent every waking moment preparing you for the day you'd leave our nest. Whether it's driving to practice or helping with homework, it's all prepared you for, what am I going to be when I grow up? Will you be ready?
After much thought, I made my decision to take my talents to the IBEW Local 613.
The International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers is not simply a job, it's a career. Visit IBEW613.org to begin a new future today.
We celebrate the athletes, the buzzer beaters, the record breakers, the wins. Now, it's time to celebrate the people behind it all. The advice givers, the community shapers, the game changers, the life changers. It's time to celebrate our coaches. Join all of us at BSN Sports and show your coach some love by sharing their story with #ThankYouCoach.
Are you interested in becoming a deputy or a jailer? The Gwinnett County Sheriff's Office is hiring and looking for individuals passionate about protecting and serving their community. If you are 18 years or older, join our team by visiting GoGCSO.